On a medieval battlefield, one of the most dangerous moments wasn't charging forward. It was standing still long enough to reload. That's where the pavis came in. A tall shield that worked like a portable wall for foot soldiers, especially crossbowmen and early handgunners. We'll look at what a pavis actually was, how it was built, who carried it, and how it changed the way infantry fought in the late Middle Ages, in open battles, in sieges, and in the shift toward more organized battlefield tactics. Number 1. What it is. A pavis is a tall shield meant to work like a small, movable barrier. It's not the kind of shield you duel with. It's the kind you hide behind while you do something that takes time, especially reloading a crossbow or handling early firearms. On a medieval battlefield where arrows and bolts can arrive without warning, the pavis puts a hard surface between a foot soldier and incoming fire, so the soldier can keep working instead of being forced to retreat. Most pavises belong to the later Middle Ages, mainly the 13th and 14th centuries, when organized infantry and missile troops became more central in European warfare. Earlier periods leaned more on round shields and simpler gear. The big, portable wall makes sense once you have large numbers of crossbowmen and trained foot units operating together. In size, many are roughly chest-to-head height for a standing person, and tall enough to cover a kneeling shooter, often around 3 to 5 feet tall, sometimes more, depending on local style and purpose. The name is usually linked to northern Italy. Pavise can mean from Pavia, a city known for producing these shields, and the word spread across Europe in local forms. Whatever language you use, the role stays the same. It's equipment for infantry, city militias, mercenaries, and siege troops, people who fight on foot and need cover more than they need a light, hand-active shield. It also helps to separate it from the iconic knight shield. Heater shields and similar types are built for mounted or close combat. A pavis is built for standing in a dangerous place and not getting forced out of it. A lot of pavises have a vertical ridge down the center, sometimes called a spine. It stiffens the shield and encourages incoming shots to glance off rather than strike flat. A slight curve does the same job. Inside, you usually find a grip, arm strap, and sometimes a carrying strap so it can be slung on the back while marching. Some versions can be planted with a spike or propped with a simple stand, so the shield can stay upright without constant support. That set it down, get behind it design is the whole concept, and it sets up the next question. How do you build a portable wall that can survive real combat? Number 2. How it was built. A pavis had to be tough, but still carryable, so wood was the core material. Makers used planks or layered boards, then strengthened the surface with cloth and glue so the face wouldn't split and peel when struck. After that, the shield might be covered with leather or more fabric and then painted. The bright designs you see in medieval art, town coats of arms, unit symbols, religious images, often match the real job of the pavis. It's a piece of field equipment that also marks identity. In a crowded fight, you want to know who is behind the wall next to you. The surface treatment mattered a lot because wood hates bad weather. Rain can swell planks, soften glues, and ruin paint. So pavises were often finished with layered coatings that made them tougher and more sealed, and they needed upkeep. If a town arsenal stored pavises for years, the shields still had to be checked, repainted, and repaired, just like bows, crossbows, and armor straps. That maintenance angle is easy to miss, but it's part of what makes pavises interesting. They're simple objects that still demand an organized supply system. Workshops could standardize the shape, a set curve, a consistent ridge, and pre-drilled strap points. When a city ordered pavises in bulk, the maker wasn't inventing a new design each time, they were producing a reliable pattern. That's one reason pavises show up so often with crisp, repeatable outlines in art. They were recognizable equipment, almost like a uniform piece of kit. And because they cost time and materials, towns tended to keep them in arsenals and issue them when needed, rather than treating them as disposable. Edges needed attention because they take impacts and wear. Some pavises had metal edging, but heavy metal all the way around isn't ideal, so you also see thick rims, extra hide layers, or wrapped bindings. The center ridge could be a carved shape or an added strip, but either way it increases stiffness without turning the whole shield into a metal object. Inside fittings stayed practical, handle, straps, maybe padding, because comfort affects performance when you're carrying bulky gear for hours. Some pavises have a small notch or cutout near the top edge. It can help with sightlines, allow a crossbow to aim over the edge with less exposure, or simply make the shield easier to handle. Not every region used that feature, but it shows the same engineering mindset. Control the moment when the soldier is visible. Once you see the materials and the trade-offs, it's clear the pavis belonged to forces that could buy, store, transport, and issue bulky gear. That leads straight to the people who actually depended on it.
Number 3. Who carried it? The classic users are crossbowmen. Crossbows hit hard and aim well, but they reload slowly, and reloading often ties up both hands. Depending on the weapon, a soldier might need a belt hook, a lever, or a crank device to span the bow. During that process, a shooter can't keep a shield up, can't run fast, and can't fire back. A pavis fixes the problem by turning reloading into a protected routine. Set the shield, crouch, reload, lean out just enough to shoot, drop back again. This is also why pavises pair so well with heavier crossbows. The more powerful the crossbow, the more time and effort it takes to span it, and the more vulnerable the shooter becomes while doing it. Portable cover lets a unit bring higher draw weapons to the field without losing all its shooters to the first exchange of fire. Because pavises are large, some armies treated them as shared equipment. A separate shield bearer could carry and plant the pavis, while the shooter focused on the weapon. And sometimes that helper also assisted with spanning. Italian city forces and mercenary companies are often connected with this kind of division of labor. It's a reminder that medieval soldier doesn't always mean a lone fighter doing everything. It can mean a small team built around efficiency and repetition. Early handgunners also used cover. The first handheld guns were slow, smoky, and demanding. Powder handling, ignition, and steady aiming took time, and the smoke alone could make the shooter an obvious target. A pavis gave those troops a safer place to work, especially in sieges or defensive positions. What you usually don't see is a mounted knight using a pavis in a charge. Knights relied on armor and mobility. Pavises belong to infantry, who hold ground under missile threat, often alongside polearm troops and other foot soldiers.
So the pavis makes most sense in the part of medieval warfare that's often overlooked in pop culture. Disciplined foot units managing distance, timing, and incoming fire. The next step is how that shows up in battlefield movement when hundreds of people are trying to do this at once. Number 4. How it was used in battle. In open battles, pavises create temporary cover points. A carrier plants the shield at an angle, and the shooter kneels behind it. Scale that up, and you can form a line where missile troops keep firing without being instantly driven off by faster volleys. If the shields are spaced well, they also reduce panic, because soldiers aren't standing exposed while waiting for a slow reload to finish. Units could also advance in short steps. One simple method is leapfrogging. A few shields move forward, set down, and shooters work from behind them while the next group moves up. It's not fast, but it's deliberate, and it keeps a missile unit useful even under pressure.
Some shooters also used the pavise as a rest, steadying a crossbow or an early gun against the top edge so they could aim more consistently. Pavises fit combined arms. Crossbowmen behind pavises still need protection from cavalry and sudden infantry rushes, so they often work with spearmen, pikemen, or other polearm troops who can hold attackers at bay. The pavise buys time for that coordination. It doesn't stop everything, but time is the key resource in medieval combat. Time to reload, time to reorganize, time to fall back without turning into a rout. A famous example often mentioned is the Battle of Crécy in 1346, where accounts describe crossbowmen struggling when they lacked proper protection and faced rapid longbow fire. Even if you set aside the details of that one battle, the practical point stands. Without cover, slow reloading missile troops are easy to suppress. With pavises, they can stay in the fight longer and keep pressure on the enemy. There are clear limits.
Pavises are awkward on rough ground, in forests, or in fast retreats. They're also a liability once combat collapses into close melee, because a big shield can get in the way more than it helps. And they demand discipline. If soldiers abandon the shields or set them poorly, the whole system breaks. That's why pavis tactics show up most in forces with training and organization. Put that same logic into a siege, and the pavis becomes even more valuable.
Number 5. Siege use. Medieval war is full of sieges because walled places control roads, trade, and supplies. The basic siege problem is simple. Defenders shoot from cover, attackers must approach in the open. A pavis gives attackers mobile protection not only for shooters, but also for workers doing essential jobs, carrying materials, filling ditches, placing ladders, building temporary bridges, or digging closer under cover. In siege operations, you often need protection in very specific spots for short periods. That's where a pavis shines. You can carry it to the front of a working party, plant it, and immediately reduce exposure while people do the job. Larger siege screens, called mantlets, could protect multiple people, sometimes built on frames or wheels, but they're slower and need more setup. Pavises are faster and more flexible. You can carry them through narrow paths, set them up quickly, and use them in small numbers wherever the threat is strongest. Defenders could use pavises too, adding extra protection along the parapet or shifting cover to a hotspot without rebuilding a fixed barricade. If defenders expect counterfire from enemy crossbows or early guns, a movable shield lets them keep experienced shooters on the wall longer. In some contexts, pavises could also be hung or lined up as a screen in tight spaces, turning individual shields into a short barricade. If a breach leads to fighting inside a town, pavises can still matter. Streets and gates create short lines of sight, and a big shield can block a lane long enough for missile troops to work or for defenders to reorganize behind it. It won't solve everything. Flanking is always a risk, but it can slow an advance and protect key ground while units reposition. Seen this way, the pavis sits between armor and fortification. Armor protects one person. Fortifications protect a place. A pavis is carried like personal gear, but it functions like a small piece of wall.
As gunpowder weapons spread, that idea doesn't disappear. It shifts into new forms. Number 6. Changes with gunpowder. Pavises are strongly associated with the later Middle Ages, when crossbows, city armies, and professional infantry companies are widespread. In the 1400s, you also see wars where organized infantry dominates many campaigns, and portable cover matches that style of fighting. You can think of the pavis as part of a bigger trend. Infantry starts bringing tools that let them hold ground, not just weapons that let them hit someone. As firearms improve, the need for a big personal shield starts to fade.
Better ignition systems and drill-based tactics let units maintain fire by rotating ranks, and protection increasingly comes from field works, ditches, stakes, earth banks, and built positions. Against concentrated gunfire at closer ranges, a wooden shield is less reassuring than it is against arrows and bolts, so armies lean more on "we build cover together" than "I carry my cover." You also see more standardized use of rests, prepared firing positions, and mixed units where some soldiers carry long weapons to protect the shooters. Still, older equipment often stays in use where it's practical. A pavise can protect a shooter on a wall, cover a small detachment, or serve in a siege where quick, portable screens are useful. The change is gradual, not instant, and it depends on local budgets, traditions, and how quickly an army updates its gear. It also helps to keep terms straight. A buckler is small and meant for active defense in close fighting. A mantlet is a larger siege screen, often protecting several people. A pavise is the personal middle ground, large enough to hide behind, portable enough to move with infantry. With that in mind, the last piece is what our sources actually show us, because the pavise is one of the rare medieval wooden battlefield tools that appears clearly in multiple kinds of evidence.
Number 7. What we know from sources. Physical pavises survive in only small numbers because wood, cloth, and glue don't age like steel. The ones that do survive still show the same core features: tall wooden bodies, reinforced faces, sturdy grips and straps, and ridges that add strength. Some also show repairs, patched surfaces, replaced bindings, repainted faces, which is exactly what you'd expect from equipment meant to be used season after season, not thrown away after one campaign. Artwork helps because medieval and early Renaissance images often depict crossbowmen with large painted shields. Artists stylize, but repeated details across regions, height, central ridges, how the shield is planted, line up well with surviving examples. The painted designs also match how equipment worked socially. Towns and units marked ownership, and those marks show up on the battlefield. In some paintings, you can even see pavises arranged in groups, almost like a fence, which matches the tactical logic of turning individual shields into shared cover. Written records add the logistics. Town inventories and pay lists include pavises alongside weapons and armor, showing they were bought in quantity, stored, issued, and replaced. That kind of paperwork is a quiet sign of how organized many late medieval forces could be, especially in wealthy cities where militias were part of civic life. A few myths are easy to clear up. Pavises weren't only for crossbows. Early gun troops used cover too. They didn't make anyone untouchable. Angles, splintering, and close fighting still mattered. Their value is more specific. They reduce exposure during the moments when a soldier is busiest and most vulnerable. If you imagine a unit trying to keep a steady flow of bolts or shots while under return fire, the pavise is the simple piece of equipment that makes that routine possible.